Oh, all right, everybody. Enrique Zoltano here, and I just watched my last video, a classic, if there ever was one. But there were some things I left out because I just kept wandering. And I guess the first thing I want to talk about is my grandpa Max. Now this is my mother's father, and my grandfather Max. He he's an American. His ancestry, from what he's told me, is that his grandfather, right? I think came over from Germany. I think he started a bar in Texas, and his father had inheritance into that bar, but he gave it away to his sister or something. I don't know. And but anyways, he always stressed his German ancestry, but I think his grandmother was American, maybe, and so he's gonna be more mixed than he's telling me. But there was just recently I saw this beautiful picture. It was of a black woman, right? And this black woman, she had a baby, maybe even two babies, but her babies were completely white, right? Uh, and I think that's because her husband's white, right? And that's the thing, beautiful thing about children. It's that you never know what you're gonna get. I mean, children are not like Crayola crayons, or any paint out there. If you mix two paints, you're gonna get a certain color. If you mix two Crayola crayons, you're gonna get a certain color. Children are a huge mixture. I've heard about these stories about two black people, right? And in the United States, when I say black people, that doesn't actually mean black people, right? In most of the other world, a black person means a black person, right? But in the United States, a black person doesn't mean a black person. Because um, because you have a lot of brown people in the United States who call themselves black, even though they're brown. And if you're brown, you've got some white blood in you. But even if you're black in the United States and you're descendants of slaves, that means you're actually going to have some slave master blood in you. That's just the history that we've learned. um, that was Thomas Jefferson, right? Um, so I heard about this story about these two black people, and they were black, and the child came out mulatto, right? The child came out brown, and so once that happened, the father was like, "Hey, this isn't my child. This isn't my child because we're both black, and so therefore our child should be black, right?" But that's not science, right? I'm Enrique Zoltano, prophet of science. That's not science because genetics, it skips generations. So it's like if there's a mulatto parent, and if to one of these people, and a mulatto grandparent to the child, that that brownness can skip, right? It's all about like genetics and shit, right? um that's why pure black people can actually have one far descendant in them that was a white slave master, right? Um, but that was that. Like they did tests, genetic tests, and that ended up being his child. Like it actually was his child, and they just had to explain to him, hey, what they're not going to teach us in schools is that two black people can have a brown child. You know, just like this black woman can have a white child, right? um, Anyways, I say all this, and I love my grandpa, but partly an annoyance because, I mean, there's this patriarchal bias in genetics that we identify with the father, 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 right? And I think there's a lot of bullshit in scientific genetics nowadays, Um, I mean, a lot of these genetic studies are bullshit because from genetics, you truly only know the father, 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 and the mother, 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 right? So it's this, like each person is a pyramid with their descendants going in a triangle downwards, and their descendants going in a triangle, like a pyramid. And you truly only know the father, 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 and the mother, mother, mother. So this all this other stuff is kind of, I think, I don't know. I think I don't trust a lot of science out there nowadays. I think there's a lot of corruption and money in science. But especially genetics. But it's kind of annoying. And I love my grandpa, I do. But for him to identify with his German grandfather, rather than, I mean, hell, it's like when I had kids, it's like my daughter was, I mean, my daughter was more like me, right? And my son ended up being more like my wife. Um, and that was a beautiful thing, right? My wife was a beautiful person. Um, Say what you want about me, but sometimes we're a real mixture, And I disagree with my brothers and my sister because I think that we're a real mixture of our parents. We totally are. Unlike some other children, because again, sometimes you'll tend to be like one parent, sometimes another, sometimes anything in between, right? And that's why I don't like a lot of these like gender reveal parties because like a lot of these tyrannical parents have like their whole lives planned out for them, and it's like no, a child is his own person or her own person, and it's about the surprise. That's what science teaches us. It's about surprise. This black woman now has two white children, right? And that was kind of the same with my dad. My dad is very dark, and I know I'm his father, definitely, or I know I'm his son, right? Um, and but that's just how it is. Like one of the things is like you see my beard, and it's just a terrible beard, I guess, for as beards go. But I've got spots on me, in which no no hair grows. Right, so it's gonna be very scraggly. Even if I oiled it, like if I oiled it, it might look better. Maybe um, I don't have the money for that. Um, but yeah, no, I've got spots, so it's kind of like a scraggly Jew beard. Even though I've seen a lot of Jew beards and they're just amazing. You know, but that's the bad stereotype. Scraggly. I've got the bad stereotypical scraggly Jew beard. But one of the reasons is because like there's like huge regions right here. There's no hair growing. Um, like one thing that I got from my father, and my sister did too, and I believe my younger brother Sequinino did too. I don't believe my older brother nor Anthony received this from my father. But one thing I received from my father that my sister definitely did, and I love my sister. I love you, sister. And I connect with you on this. You know, it's you know, my dad's grandmother was full-blooded Apache, and you know, I love the Apaches. And my dad's a typical Apache. He truly is. He's Apaches can tend to be shy. Um, that makes sense from their history. They come from the Dakotas, and that's where they get their red skin because there's like no trees around, and so they're in the sun all day, just like the Africans. But for some reason, their skin turned red. Right? They're really truly the only redskins because most Native Americans are brown skinned. You know. But you know, Apaches definitely have this red tint to them, and my dad has a red tint to his skin. And again, that's beautiful variety of skin color. You know. But the you know, the Spanish came along and they brought horses, and many Native American tribes developed these horses. And I mean, this is the Great Plains, and what most people don't understand about the history of the tribes of the Mongols and the Turks, the tribes of the steppes. They totally misunderstand this because uh, um, you know, you have the wars between the city folk and the horse masters, and like I was reading this history of like the Romans and the Germans, and it was at the fall of the Roman Empire and the Romans themselves, and the history was talking blah 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 blah, right? And what it was saying was that these Germans were just they were riding around from town to town. They were riding behind Roman lines, right? And the Romans were cowed up in their cities, as they deservedly should have been. And what the text wasn't saying, but that what I was seeing from the text was that it's like, oh my God, these Germans have a lot of horses, and the Romans do not have a lot of horses, right? Therefore, there's this legal distinction between the Germans and the Romans of the time where horses were a privilege for the elites in Roman society, while horses were a common thing for the Germans. And so you had Germans on tanks, you know, and Romans in their little tortoises. And what's going to happen? Right? And so a lot of this conflict between the nomadic steppe peoples and the city folk of China and Persia in the Middle East and the Europeans and the Eastern Europeans is really the failure of these so-called civilized societies to grant freedom to their people, right? That's the real history. And so when the evil Comanche, who were barbaric to their fellow Native Americans and would just slaughter them, kill them. And I was living in the East Mountains, and I was working at this factory and I met this Comanche man who was working there, and he was a beautiful man. I loved working with him. So bless all the Comanches, but definitely don't be proud of your histories, because you genocided Native Americans, and you genocided my Apache peoples, right? But at the same time, you can probably recognize this failure within the Apache societies that the Comanches succeeded in, and that was this idea of elitism, right? Maybe was happening. That happens in most. That's happening in our day, right? All over the world now. So none of us have a right to look down upon you, because it's everywhere, right? You have elitism, and but from my experience with seeing other Comanches, or not Comanches but Apaches, they tend to be a lot like my dad. You know, my dad can be a very shy person, very quiet. Um, but when my dad got angry, like you could fucking feel it in the room. And not only that, from my own experience, every time I got angry, it just felt so good. Like I just felt so powerful, and I just fucking loved being angry. It was like this sacred high, and when I felt that, I would remember my dad getting angry, and he wouldn't get angry a lot because he's a gentle man and he's very loving. But anytime he did, it's like you felt this, and when I got angry, I felt that same thing, right? So I totally think that I'm a I totally think that I'm my father's child, even though we have different skin color. um, and I love my sister. I do. Um, and I respect my youngest brother. I think I felt it in him before, but he hides it more, or he controls it more. I don't know. But I could possibly be wrong. He might have passed. It might not have hit him, right? But he was in the Navy, and he said he liked to fight, and he I think he said he never lost one when he was in the Navy. Um, so it's like, no, I see it. One time I tried to hold him down and make him submit, and he wouldn't submit, and I'm so proud of him. Uh, but I think I've seen it in him before too. Now there's also my mom's a redhead, so she's got Irish and Scottish in her, right? And so that's why that's why it's funny to compare tribes sometimes, because it's like maybe we got our anger from my mom, right? Because she's a redhead, right? And um, but uh, in like the Irish, like they don't fucking shut up, right? But Apaches tend to be more quiet, and yeah, that probably comes from that epic journey from Dakota to New Mexico, filled with sorrow and tragedy and terror, as they're coming to kill and enslave, right? And so it left a mark upon the Apache peoples. And I think I see that mark in my dad and other Apaches, right? Now, for me personally, it's like it's like I've told you, I experienced anger, and it's just like, oh, wow, awesome, But like I've got sinus and allergies my whole life. I used to get allergy shots once a week, and anytime I experience anger, I get a sinus headache, right? So I hate to say what I'm about to say, because people are gonna accuse me. There's all these accusers out there, but please do not accuse me. But when I watched A Clockwork Orange, I did not identify with the psychotic murderness. Like, I don't identify with Dexter and his need to kill. Like I don't. But I did identify with this idea of pain influencing behavior, and that's kind of what happened to me. You know, it's like I didn't like to get angry because I'd get a headache afterwards. You know, so um, yeah, I identified with that aspect of the film, not the psychotic love to hurt, and I don't like to hurt people. Um, but anyways, so my hair, right? That's what this video is all about. My hair. It's all about my hair. See, my hair I get from my grandfather. You know, my grandfather's this German American man. And he tends to have thin hair. And he was always balding his whole life, right? I don't think he ever went completely bald, but he was balding. And when I was a teenager, I began to have a high forehead, right? And so I had a high forehead. I saw my grandpa who was balding, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna be balding by the time I'm my age right now, 40. Like, I'm 45 right now. And I'm like terrified. I'm like, holy shit. I even I measured my hairline, and I measured my hairline by putting my pinky on my eyebrow, so I knew where I was starting from, and then I would boom, measure my forehead like this. You know, so where is my hair compared to my thumb? And like I can't even feel my hair right now. But at the time I could, but I could only barely feel my hair, right? So it's like I've only like receded a bit, right? Um, and I'd comb my hair, and I'd see my hairs in the hairbrush. And I'm like, fuck you, Germans. um, but then it was like, what? Like, I'm just gonna talk about this right now. And that's my wife. She didn't love me, whatever. I love her, and I think she made it to the good side, definitely. Allah is all merciful. Um, but she was a Filipina, and she had thick hair, right? Thick hair, and she was always complaining about her thick hair. And my whole life I was complaining about my thin hair. I'm like, I'm gonna go bald. Nobody's gonna like me. Wah wah wah, right? Um, and that's something I definitely got from my mom. My mom's a worrier, and she always has to be worrying about something, and sometimes there's this biological need with it. It's not mental, right? Because I'm not a bitch mentally, but like I'm just worrying and worrying, and it's just like, stop. And but I get that from my mom. um and You know, there's that line in the Torah, right, which says, I know all the numbers of the hairs on your head, right, and there's this intimacy, there's this real intimacy within those words. I mean, this is something some of us have all felt, but been too embarrassed to talk about. Maybe I'm the only one. Um, but I'll comb my hair and look at my hairbrush and have this moment of fear. Stupid fear, because that's totally not me, right? But yeah, no, intimacy, definitely. Um, oh my god, I think there was one more other thing. Yeah, again, I was looking at this other video and there's things I didn't say. Oh, I don't know. It just says, God admires Moses. I totally believe in the the God that wants to admire us, right, rather than enable our weakness.